We've got an extraordinary confluence of events to unpack today, and when you put it all together, the picture is one of extraordinary American strategic success, not the kind that gets declared in a rose garden ceremony with a shiny new peace deal, but the quiet, grinding, kinetic kind of success that happens when a superpower just refuses to stop applying pressure until the other side runs out of options and ends up dissipating an entirely new civilizational order. It's extraordinary stuff. Let's start with the basic architecture of what Iran was actually trying to do, because without understanding the strategy, you can't understand why it's failing. After the 2 to 3 week war in which roughly 10% of U.S. military capability wiped out 100% of Iran's air force and navy within a single week, the Islamic Republic had a problem. They had been militarily obliterated. They had been rendered inert. Their conventional deterrent was gone. Their air defenses were shattered. Their navy was at the bottom of the sea. And so, stripped of the ability to project power, to fight back in any conventional military sense, they fell back on the one card they had left, and that's the Strait of Hormuz. You see, you don't need a navy to threaten the Strait of Hormuz. What you need is mines, which Iran has been laying in the strait since the ceasefire went into effect on April 8th. And what you need is coastal missile batteries, dozens of missile launch sites carved into the mountainsides along Iran's southern coastline there, pointing down at any ship foolish enough to try to transit those waters. And that's the choke point Iran has been using as leverage ever since. They've been deliberately trying to pressure President Trump by closing off 20% of the world's oil supply that flows through the strait, spiking the price of oil and hurting Trump politically. And so just 2 days ago, Trump ordered U.S. forces to strike Iranian targets in and around Hormuz. They sank Iranian mine-laying boats. They struck Bandar Abbas, Iran's major port city at the narrowest part of the strait. They struck Jask, which sits directly opposite the UAE's critical oil bypass forts at Fujairah and Khorfakan, the terminals that receive oil via overland pipelines specifically designed to avoid the Strait of Hormuz. They struck Sirik, another missile launch site on the southern coast. And there were explosions reported near Larak Island, which sits right at the lowest choke point of the entire strait. What the United States was doing there is absolutely key. These were strategic strikes. We systematically destroyed the missile sites that enforced the Hormuz closure. It was telling the Iranian regime, in effect, look, every time you lay a mine, every time you point a missile at a tanker, we're going to come back and we're going to knock out another battery. And we're going to just keep doing this until there's basically nothing left to threaten those ships with. And this is where the oil market tells the story better than any press release ever could. This is the number that changes everything. And think about this arc, okay? So at the height of the war's most intense phase in early May, Brent crude hit $115 a barrel, a reflection of the world's terror that 20% of global oil and gas supply was like permanently locked behind an Iranian mine barrier with no resolution in sight. By May 22nd, as ceasefire talk and nuclear deal rumors swirled, that price dropped to $104. By May 26th, it was at $100. And today, May 27th, Brent is $95.64, and WTI, West Texas, has crashed to $89.87, down over 4% in a single session, sitting at a 5-week low.